think the biggest change I've seen in the profession since I first became a practicing lawyer, which was in the late 80s, is that we've had the introduction of computerisation. And when I became a lawyer, you had to go and work for a firm, or you had to go and work for a government organisation because they had the infrastructure you needed to do the work that you had to do. During the 90s, without mentioning brand names, big American computer companies came into play, and all of a sudden it was possible to set up your own firm because you could run the accounts, you could run the file management, and you could send emails to people in the late 90s, and it became a lot easier to operate without using the telephone. In the old days we would be making 40 telephone calls a day easily. So those days have changed, and that's probably the biggest change I've seen.
I think legal practice has changed forever, so it's really hard to talk about what is traditional law practice. If, for instance, I look back at practice in the 1920s, it's very different from what practice is today. If we're talking about changes in the legal profession, obviously it'll change. The nature of our work changes. The most dramatic changes that I've seen in the relatively short time that I've been practicing would probably be the advent of email and the advent of online information services, which leads me to reflect on some implied criticisms of lawyers to do with the taking up of technology. There's either an implied or an expressed criticism that lawyers don't embrace technology as they should. But I think, for instance, with emails and online case reporting, recent development, lawyers have been at the forefront of adopting technology.
Oh, look, I remember people saying there would not be jobs for lawyers when the fax machine came in. I remember people saying that when emails came in. I think the reality is this: lawyers are trained to resolve complex problems. Some of those problems may be resolved by computers, but the resolution of those problems will create even more complex problems that will still need a human to come in. And there also is the human part of this. Emotional intelligence, as we know, plays just as much a part in sorting out problems as the technical knowledge that is required to resolve legal problems. And we, of course, are trusted advisors. We will continue to be trusted advisors because people always get into the difficulties regardless of the modernity or complexity of the machinery or circumstances around them.
It's really hard to imagine that there'll ever be a time that lawyers won't be required. My own view is, as long as there are laws, as long as there is an Attorney General, either Commonwealth or in the state of Victoria, as long as people need contracts and deals documented or understood, there'll be a role for lawyers in some form or another.